You are listening to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Stella Gianotto. With more than 25 years' experience in the branding industry, Stella's insights on branding, consumer behavior, and marketing are keenly sought after. As a consumer futurist, Stella works with brands to predict what their customers will think, do, want, and need in the future. From this, she recommends the best strategies for brands to succeed. Stella has delivered over 1,000 brands globally as a creative director behind Brands for Brands and received multiple business awards, including Best Designer, Best Design House, and Best Brand Agency Sydney 2019. A regular media contributor, her work has appeared in magazines, newspapers, books, and also on TV. Today, we're asking the question, is AI changing the rules of branding and marketing? Stella, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, Stella, as I always like to ask my guests, where in the world are you?
I am in Sydney, Australia.
One of my favourite parts of the world. Okay, well, look, Stella, you've got a very impressive resume, but can you just kind of give a brief explanation of what you do for our listeners?
So the condensed version of what I do. So essentially we work with brands to give their consumers or their clients what they want before they know they want it. And whilst that seems like, we may have a crystal ball and that we're essentially predicting the future, what we are doing is we're positioning or rebranding the brand itself. We're repositioning them in their marketplace where their consumer wants them to be, not where the brand wants to be. And we're also mapping the customer journey to see what missed opportunities the client actually is missing out on from the consumer. So essentially that's what we do. And we start from the point of view of looking at the brand and rebranding it to reposition it, all with a view to increase business revenue and growth.
Gotcha. And are there any brands you could call out that you've helped? Are you able to do that?
Not without their permission.
Okay, no problem.
But certainly a lot in fast-growing sectors such as in education and medtech health and a lot of professional services, actually.
Understood. So let's dive into your question. Is AI changing the rules of branding and marketing? Explain this.
Well, needless to say, AI is on everyone's minds and certainly the point of discussion for everyone at the moment. But AI is definitely reshaping the marketing landscape. And as a result, it's going to impact brands on a global basis. We know that AI is going to be a game changer for marketing in general because it's got the potential to revolutionize the way that businesses essentially connect with their customers or their consumers. I know a lot of people are really concerned about AI and the effect that it will have on the human element of marketing or the human element of brands. But at the end of the day, AI used properly is ultimately going to grow. It's ultimately going to drive business growth, and it's going to change the way marketing is actually executed, essentially. I mean, on the positive side, we know that AI is going to boost marketing productivity by automating repetitive tasks. We know that it can provide insights into data and emerging trends. But we also know on the flip side that consumer behavior towards brands is also changing. It's constantly evolving, and consumers want more immersive, personalized, and relevant tailored experiences for brands. And I guess AI can really facilitate that. But one of the key advantages is what AI is allowing marketers to do is to deliver very dynamic and personalized content on demand, those demands from the consumer, personalizing those experiences and really catering to a personalized experience, helping the consumer with a buying decision. So that's what's happening in marketing and branding essentially.
And how is that personalization taking place? Because one of the complaints I've heard, or one of the statements I've heard on multiple occasions is when people say, read something that's been created by ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I've met so many people now that say, I can tell that was written by ChatGPT or was written by AI. And it's just been done very quickly without too much effort. So, tell us about this.
Well, that's the key thing. You need to actually strike a balance between using AI to enhance your consumer's experience or to enhance the brand experience, but you still need to maintain an authentic and human touch. And that's something that marketeers in general haven't quite gotten right yet. Mm-hmm. And essentially that's because they're just relying on the AI technology wholly and solely without doing what we call the sandwiching effect. So the human has to interact with the AI technology to feed a series of inputs and data and insights. then it will produce, AI will run its course and produce what it needs to produce, but then it needs to go through another humanization process again to make it sound like a human actually did write it. Now, I know there's AI tools such as originality.ai that will help to smooth that out and make it sound more real and more human. But a human smoothing over a text or a piece of marketing is never going to be the same as AI doing that. So it's just about striking that right balance. And there's a lot of marketers haven't quite gotten that right yet.
And how do you think they can strike that balance? Because obviously you're working very hard to make sure you get the balance right. What's the approach that you're taking?
Well, the approach is to look at what the consumer is actually doing and how they are behaving. And the point of marketing a brand is to essentially put your product or service in the hands of the consumer so that you can affect their head, heart, and their hip pocket all at the same time. Ultimately, that's the consumer's buying decision. Where we need to really focus is on making sure that we understand how the consumer thinks and feels, because that it ultimately underpins their buying decision. Now, AI can't do that. It can't think and it can't feel for you yet. It's a piece of regenerative technology, essentially.
Yeah.
So as marketeers, we need to make sure that we infuse that in whatever it is that we're delivering, whether it's a personalized message, whether it's a deep immersive experience, whether it's even, customer support or some kind of engagement or responsiveness through chatbots and virtual assistants. We need to make sure that it is very targeted and personalized and relevant to what the consumer is asking for or needing at that time. And that's the key thing, relevance.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the word that you mentioned there that really jumped out at me was relevancy.
Relevancy, yes.
Absolutely. Because, there can be so many examples where people get some text, they think it's great, but then it's really not about what they're interested in. So how granular can you get with the level of personalization?
You can get as granular as you like, essentially. If you have that data and you understand what the consumer's behavior is, and you can feed that into an AI technology, you can get as granular as you like, right down to literally pinging a consumer as they've walked into a shopping centre and walked past a competing brand by offering something in store for the consumer to take advantage of. Now, that's timely and relevant. You know they're within the vicinity. You know that they're looking. They've happened to walk into one of your competitors' retail outlets. So that's how relevant it can actually be. Of course, we've all experienced irrelevant interactions with AI. For example, Netflix was recently raked over the coals for the fact that they were offering suggestions on each individual's profiles that was completely irrelevant and not what the viewer wanted to watch. So that's an ineffective use of AI, essentially.
So it sounds very much the example that you gave there where somebody's walked into a shopping mall for the sake of argument. Yep. Very similar to scenes we've seen in movies like Minority Report. There's a whole scene where Tom Cruise walks through and it says, "Hey, you want a Guinness?" This sort of thing.
That's right.
So is there the potential that people can take this phenomenon too far in that it gets almost oppressive in that it doesn't matter where you go, you're getting hit with too much marketing?
Oh, 100%. And I guess really that's where we need to address the concerns. Even though we know AI has a lot of potential, as individuals, as human beings, we need to address the concern about data security and about privacy and ethical use of the AI algorithms, essentially. So I actually recently came across an organization in the US that was using AI algorithms and targeting individuals who had recently lost somebody, i.e. they were deceased or had passed over. And you could feed a whole lot of data sets and photos and images and videos and audios of the deceased individual and have a real-time conversation with them. Is that an ethical use, an ethical societal use of AI? For some people, yes. For some people, no. So this is where we really need to have, I think, transparency on, are you using AI? And if so, how and when are you using it? Because consumers would be okay with that.
Do you see a backlash, though? Because the concern I have with everything about this is that people feel that AI is going too far into their lives and they always become nervous about what's happening and what they do. So there's almost like they will stop doing things. So they'll be wondering, is AI watching me?
Well, yes, there is a backlash. In fact, we're going to see the height of that backlash. My prediction is within the next 18 to 24 months. Now, research has already been released from the States that 52% of consumers are already switching brands because of the inauthenticity and the artificiality they're experiencing from the brand. And that's not what they're looking for. So the key thing is what the revolt we're going to see is we're going to see consumers, individuals, humans, come away from wanting to use AI or come away from being immersed heavily with AI, unless they choose to be, because they don't want that artificiality. They want the authenticity. And that comes back right down, filters through marketing, right back to a brand level, a brand that is authentic in its actions, authentic in its communication, and authentic in its value set.
Okay. And what sort of division are you seeing in the different age demographics?
That's an interesting one. Obviously, the older generations, such as the baby boomers, they're completely ostriching. They're putting their head in the sand. They don't want to know about it. And if AI is being utilized in their daily interactions, they don't want to know about it. And then you've got the younger generations. You've got the X and the Y and the Z Genners. We're very curious. We are comfortable with using it. Depending on if it's an X or a Y Genner, we're finding that that particular generation want it utilized how and when they want on demand, but not as a complete immersion of their lives. Then we've got younger generations that are like, hit me up, plug me into the matrix, AI everything. It's increasing productivity. It's making my life far simpler to organize and manage. So I think it really depends on the age the individual is and how much exposure they have had growing up to technology.
So within the world of branding, obviously, you, at the end of the day, you're trying to help companies make money.
Yes.
They stay relevant and they make money. And in a lot of cases, there will be those specific demographics that have the money to spend.
Yes.
So in those demographics that are resistant to AI or rejecting it, what's your approach to try and get past that barrier?
Well, essentially, if they're rejecting the AI technology, we need to understand the root cause of where that rejection is stemming from. Is it stemming from a lack of understanding? Is it stemming from a lack or an unwillingness to give it a go and experiment with it? Mm-hmm. Or is it a case that the AI technology does not align with the value set of the business? It's one of those three. And when we can better understand what the resistance is, then we're able to create a pathway as to whether we do use AI in some way, shape or form, or whether we don't, and we take everything offline.
Have you seen any examples where organizations or brands have used AI and you've just gone, oh my goodness, that is the worst thing you could possibly do? You don't need to name brands.
Yes, in fact, actually, a well-known fashion label that I subscribe to has recently updated my preferences, not from me logging into my profile and doing it, and has started skewing my results in terms of what it's sending me. It's all of a sudden started sending me menswear, men's clothing, men's shoes, and the latest menswear fashion. And the last time I checked, I was a woman and I wasn't particularly interested in buying men's fashion. That's a major faux pas. It continued doing it. I have since unsubscribed and don't follow that brand anymore and probably won't purchase from them again. It's not a gross misuse, but it's also not relevant as to what I was saying earlier.
So this is a perfect example of the moment that any brand doesn't feel relevant, doesn't feel like it is connecting with you in an appropriate way, the consumer will move.
Yes, and it's called that epidemic is called brand switching. Bang, like that happens in a second. The minute your brand isn't relevant in any form of communication or experience, the consumer is just going to switch.
And how would you go about trying to help a brand that's gone through that? So they've made this big mistake, they've made this big faux pas, and they go, oh my goodness, Stella, help us. What would you do next?
Well, there's quite a lot of brands that are actually experiencing that. And where they've experienced it is in their lack of sales. Or they're experiencing it because their marketing is all of a sudden redundant and ineffective. In the clients that we've been working with, in some cases, we have had to completely re-engineer their entire marketing strategy and the way they execute because they no longer have relevancy or are no longer, they're just no longer relevant to the consumer. So in those cases, those brands have had to rebrand and re-enter their own marketplace so that they look like a new entrant. And for the ones that have only just started suffering it, what they've been able to do is to strike a balance across their marketing and do a mix. So essentially online, offline, so some in person and some digital, and mix that up within the experience, either through nurturing through the sales cycle or nurturing after the sale as well.
And how much panic or nervousness do you think this is causing in boardrooms around the world?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. So the only ones that are really starting to pay attention is global brands or enterprise level brands, where at a C level, they're concerned about the creative resilience of their staff, and they're concerned about how they can automate AI to create more efficiencies, more productivity, because ultimately they're looking for cost savings. So they're not looking to replace anyone yet. They're looking at a surface level of what it could do. Trickle that down to sort of medium and small business enterprise. Some small businesses that are, as we say in Australia, running business on the smell of an oily rag, have adopted AI because they cannot afford the resource. In the mid-tier level, no one's paying attention.
You see, this is really interesting for me because you've described an example there where AI is being used in a great way for me. It is leveling the playing field. AI is being used by smaller organizations to give them the sort of muscle, maybe not quite to the same degree, but they can remain competitive with the larger organizations, which I think is a wonderful thing. It's democratization of success, in my opinion. And it's really a shame that people aren't embracing this. I mean, I like to say that, traditional skills when it comes to AI can be very, very useful. So, the older generations, the older demographics that are in there is potential for them to use this technology in a smart way. And it's a real shame when people don't embrace it and, get over that fear.
Exactly. And essentially what these individuals or businesses, and I'll say everyone collectively need to do, is we need to focus on leveraging AI as a tool to enhance our creativity and to enhance productivity rather than relying on it to solely animate process. I mean, efficiencies and cost savings and increased productivity, that's the surface level, but we haven't really figured out, some businesses are, the impact that it can have on integrating it as part of your business. I mean, we did an experiment just recently. We always like to use our business as the guinea pig. So we adopted 2 AI technologies on a part-time basis into our productivity, so into our delivery of our product and our services. We didn't replace anyone in our team. We didn't stop using any of our suppliers. We saw a 51.2% increase in the turnover in 1 month from a part-time adoption. That's amazing. And we haven't replaced anybody. This month, we're trialing those 2 AI technologies on a full-time basis, and we're keen to see what's going to happen. Now, that's only 2 of a dozen different AI technologies that we're going to use to enhance the delivery for our clients and enhance the nurturing experience that they have when they're dealing with us.
And, without going into too much detail, I'm assuming that the cost of implementing these isn't ridiculous amounts of money.
No, I thought if one of them was $20 or $30 US a month, and the other one we're just still using the free version of. We haven't even paid to use the paid version yet because we wanted to trial it to see if it was a fit first.
So a 50+% increase for the sake of $20.
Yes.
That's
and a little bit of time. So everyone is able in our team to spend between 30 and 60 minutes a day on trialing the technology. We've all got a shared document and a shared resource online where we all put our findings in. So together we're able to drive it by creating new commands, understanding new sequencing, understanding how to stack those prompts in order to get the outcome that we want, and we're sharing that with one another.
And that's a really interesting methodology that you've got there. So the whole team, they've been given a specific amount of time to try these things out, play, see what you can do. But then there is a dedicated process for people to get together and say, hey, this worked, this didn't work, and the team as a whole benefits.
Correct. So it's only as simple as a shared Google Doc, in a shared drive, and we all put in our findings or how we've tweaked our prompts or how we've resequenced them essentially. And now we've started another document where our team is putting together a list of other AI technologies that will enhance our business.
Excellent. I mean, and it's such a simple thing to do, and more companies should be trying to do this. I mean, even at the individual entrepreneur level, just try these things out. You'd be amazed what can happen. Your example, say, $20, 50+% improvements. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah, huge.
Okay. Yeah. So beyond that amazing example of your own, have you got any examples you can think of where another organization, small, medium, or large, have really grasped AI and made good use of it?
So there's one that we're working with at the moment that is close to rolling it out. They are an e-tailer. So they were a traditional bricks and mortar business with a traditional product that they were selling. They had no online representation. We, over the course of the last 18 to 24 months, built an online venture for them. They became an e-tailer and what have you. Now what they are doing with AI is based on heat mapping that we've got on the website, where the viewer has journeyed across the website. We have now tracked that, mapped it into a customer journey, and are now using AI to individualize and personalize content to send straight to that consumer. So some of the examples that we're doing is based on, what area of the website they went first. It tells us at what stage of the buying process they're at. So then we will send relevant content to them. But what we're doing is we're sending them articles and blogs that's personalized for them in the forms of emails. We've also pre-recorded a series of video content where the CEO has recorded a personalized message, but we're using an audio sample of the CEO's voice and AI to personalize the video that you're responding. So it's like, hey, Richard, thanks for exploring our website. So we're personalizing essentially the old school sales process by using the AI technologies. It's all automated and it's all digital, and at any time that they can opt out, but at any time they can also opt in and say, yep, why don't you organize to have a face-to-face with one of our consultants?
That's really interesting. And I've seen your technologies like Be Human, which is a great example of marketing technology to do that.
That's right. That's right. And one of the other things to remember is to make it relevant and to make it real and give it that human touch. It's not perfectly choreographed and curated and perfected with this hyper level of perfection that we kind of see from like our influencers. There's mistakes and copying and things that look like are being shot on an iPhone. And we've done that on purpose because we want to show that it is really authentic. So it's not a high polished production that you would normally expect from a marketeer. It's gone the other way to prove the authenticity, not the artificiality.
So you're actually adding in grain into the film to work on a psychological level there.
Correct. We're not using lighting. We're not using effects. We're not editing out the mistakes. We're leaving that all in.
And that adds to the potential feeling of authenticity, yeah?
Correct, because as humans, we look for those cues. We look for those signs of reality. If it's too perfect and too coordinated with no mistakes in it, we're going to question its authenticity. Now, 5 or 6 years ago, that wasn't even in question. But now with AI, now that we are, as humans, skeptical of where AI exists in our life, we're looking for these cues.
Interesting. So if there was one piece of advice that you would give to the listeners today about AI in general, if you want, or just how it can work within branding, what would it be?
I think I said it earlier, if you focus on AI as a tool to enhance your creativity and your productivity, rather than relying on it for productivity or automating processes, and you infuse human touch and emotions into the marketing, you're going to create very meaningful connections with your brand and your consumers, and you're going to really differentiate yourself from everybody else. If we could focus on that side of it, you will have hit a winner. And at the end of the day, AI is only as good as the input. So without that creativity, without that ideation or concept, you're not going to get a good result.
So there's still very much a place for the human part of this equation.
100%. Until there is an algorithm built to replace how a human thinks and how a human feels, we're all okay. We're safe.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Stella, where can people find you, and what interesting projects, exciting things can you tell us about where people can see what you're doing?
You can find us on our website, brandforbrands.com. I am on all the social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Stella Gianotto. It's a very unique name, so you'll be able to find me. Interesting products. We are developing a product that we're wanting to take to the world on how organizations can maintain their creative resilience in the face of AI. We're offering a DIY product to small business and startups and evolving entrepreneurs, and also offering an enterprise version to the larger corporates and global brands as well. because this will be a key need moving forward.
Completely said. Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you for your time today. Really interesting take on what's happening with AI and the world of branding.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.